Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am so happy to represent our country, India, and I'm proud to be a female from South India. Thank you so much, Sunny, for organizing this event. It is an absolute delight to speak on behalf of all the persecuted and to be a voice for this generation. As I use television and media to raise my voice for women, children, and the outcast, I wanted to talk about persecution and religious violence that we all know is on the rise. We talk amongst ourselves about how bad it is and what others can do, must do, and ought to do. But how many times do we act on the responsibility of the individual Christian during such a time as this? I want to highlight a few things from the Bible, from the book of Esther. She had to go through something very difficult to represent her people as Jews were getting ready to be annihilated. A situation presented itself in the king's court where the position for queen was open. Just like every other woman getting trained for that position, Esther had to go through the same beauty treatments, lessons, and practices that were offered to every woman. Esther had an unfavorable background. She was a Jew and an orphan, but she was chosen because not of her background, but she found favor with the eunuchs of the court and the king. We all know the story of Esther from the Bible, but when Esther became queen, she used her training well, both from her uncle Mordecai and the eunuchs of the king's court. She was wise and certain in her words and actions. While we think about Esther and discuss ways to combat religious violence, I want to pose 3 questions to all of you and leave you thinking. Number 1, what do you do when you're called or chosen? Mordecai says in Esther 4:14, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance from the Jews will arise from another place. Though revolution, revival, and freedom will come regardless of who leads it, remember that if you do not step up, that position will be given to someone else. When Mordecai said this and made a call to Esther, Esther immediately returned his call with an action. That's when she gathers her attendees to fast and pray for 3 days at where she was with the king. So I encourage all of you, when you are called or chosen, do something, anything that your hand finds to do, the closest issue that you can solve that is right next to you. Question number 2, how do you know you are doing the work? How do you know you are doing the work? When you do something, God rewards your actions through kings and through men. In the book of Esther, we see the king couldn't sleep one night and had the scrolls read to him. From the readings, he realized that Mordecai was not compensated for his good deed. The king rewards Mordecai when Haman wanted Mordecai and the Jews killed. Later, we also see that according to Esther 8:11, the king's edict granted the Jews in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them and their women and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. That's how God moves, and kings move when you do the work. Question number 3, what do you not do as a leader? Many times we are told, this is what you should do. These are the things that you must practice, and these are the ways that you must follow. But it is not taught to us, or it is not said to us what things we must not do when we are in positions of leadership. Number 1, don't pick up the sword, because those who use the sword will be killed by the sword. We are seeing this today. And we will see this as justice is not ours, justice is not yours, but God's. Esther 9:5 says, the Jews struck down their enemies and haters. because this is in the Bible, this might seem right at first, and it might be appropriate culturally. It might have been appropriate at that time because this came from the king's edict. But we must remember that justice is not ours, but God's. Instead of being angry, feeling helpless for the persecuted and victimized, ask yourself if you as a leader or those in leadership positions have exercised responsibility and accountability while in power. In chapter 8, we see because of the king's edict given by the king, we see many from the peoples of the country declare themselves Jews, for fears of the Jews had fallen on them. How long will faith last if it's motivated by fear? What will it take to develop genuine faith and relationship with Christ? We definitely need to ask ourselves these questions. If Christians are able to answer these questions privately and truthfully, then things will begin to change. I want to repeat these 3 questions again. What do you do when you're called or chosen? How do you know you are doing the work? Number 3, what do you not do as a leader? The United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres released a plan of action to prevent incitement to religious violence. One important line he writes about religious leaders is this: some have used their position to spread messages of hatred and hostility that have incited violence. Many others, however, have been responsible for preventing violence and its incitement by spreading messages of peace, tolerance, acceptance, and mutual respect, and by taking action to reduce tensions between communities. Today, I challenge you to be a leader that promotes compassion, humanity, and wisdom. As a media advocate, as someone who uses social media and who does what she loves, being in the media industry, I want to give you a few tips of how you can use media to promote religious freedom and to speak about those who are being persecuted. Number 1, keep your message clear, concise, and consistent. Number 2, focus on unity, justice, truth, and wisdom. Number 3, refrain from commenting on topics that you have no experience in. There are stories and thoughts, there's reality happening, especially in India, about how not just pastors, but those who take up the name of Jesus, how they are being persecuted. But this is not shown in the media or not represented, or justice is not provided for them. Media is such a powerful tool, and we as Christians need to start to learn how to use it. So we need to constantly talk about these things, whether it is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, your website, whatever platform you have, consistently speak for them. Be a voice for them. Christians often emphasize their roles in leadership, saying they were called and chosen, but it matters how Christian leaders act while in these positions of authority. It matters how you use your training, and if at all, you are willing to be trained. Eckhart Tolle has a wonderful quote, and I want to read this to you. If you had not suffered as you have, there would be no depth to you as a human being, no humility, no compassion. So everyone in this room knows somebody who has been persecuted, who has been raped, who has been cursed, beaten, and stripped for bearing the name of Jesus Christ. And today we must all realize that that comes at a cost. And for their sacrifices and for their blood that is shed, someone will reap the victory. Some soul will reap a reward. And it is up to us Christian leaders to make sure that their blood, the voice and the cry of their blood is not gone without being challenged. This is the responsibility that each of us have as Christian leaders. So while in your fight for religious freedom and your journey to be a leader, remember to be human first. Remember that the very breath that runs through your lungs is the same holy breath that runs in the lungs of others who are different than you. practice freedom of belief, conscience, and thought for yourself and for those who need it. Let's be worthy of God's holy breath. Show compassion, speak unity, be focused, and be ready for such a time as this.